It's been widely documented that places that have higher rates of income inequality have lower rates of social mobility. But what's not clear is whether this is a causal relationship, whether a place that has higher levels of income inequality leads to lower economic mobility, or if it's just characteristics of the place and the people who live there. So we take that as a challenge. In this new paper with Phil Levine, we're investigating the consequences of income inequality for kids who are growing up in households at the bottom of the income distribution. So economists have done a lot of research into the causes of income inequality, but until this point, we've known much less about the consequences for poor kids. And what we're finding is that for low-income kids who grow up in states or cities with larger gaps between the bottom and the middle, they're more likely to drop out of school than kids just like them who live in states or cities with smaller gaps between the bottom and the middle of the income distribution. And this really changes the way economists think about the role of income inequality and incentivizing kids to stay in school. So a standard economics model would say that if the returns to investing in my own skills and achieving higher levels of education are greater, meaning if the guys at the top, they're doing really well, then I really want to put myself in a good position to get to the top. I really want to stay in school. I want to invest in myself. We would say the standard model would say that income inequality has this aspirational effect. But the data is telling us something different. The data is telling us that on average, kids, boys in particular, who are growing up in low-income homes, if they're in a place with greater gaps between the bottom and the middle, they're less likely to stay in school. They're less likely to invest in their own education. And we make sense of this by proposing that income inequality has an offsetting despair effect on kids at the bottom. So instead of incentivizing them to stay in school and invest more in their self, it's causing them to think, why bother? Like, the middle class life is so far from my own that maybe it's not worth it to stay in school because I'm not going to be that person. And this would be, this is what the data is more consistent with. This turns our typical models on their head a bit, and this poses real policy challenges.